In this video, I'll show you how I'm landscaping the grade on my traditional O-gauge Polar Express layout. And we're starting right now. Hi, my name is Owen, and in these videos I'm continuing to build and expand my traditional O-gauge Polar Express layout. I show you what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Today I'm going to be landscaping the grade to my new elevated track. I added the elevated track a few weeks ago, and by doing so I increased my total trackage by at least 50%. I covered that expansion in a series of videos, and I'll include a link below so that you can see those. I have lots more videos planned, so now would be a great time to click the subscribe so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos on the Polar Express layout. In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to use several materials to landscape, or perhaps I should say snow-scape, the grade to my elevated track. These include Foam Putty, Plaster Cloth, Lightweight Hydrocal, all from Woodland Scenics. I've used rock molds to also make several rocks that I'll be adding to the landscape or the snowscape to add realism to my layout. I'm starting with Plaster Cloth to cover the area and provide a good foundation for the Hydrocal plaster that will follow. I'll be using plastic sheeting to protect the rest of my layout from any drips from the Plaster Cloth or the Hydrocal as I go about using those materials. You're going to want to be sure to stick around to the end of this video, because once we finish with the landscaping that we're working on, we're going to run the trains, and we're going to run one of those trains up the grade, and if we can get it done, we're going to mount a camera on it so that you could get a track level view of how it looks. The first step is cutting the plaster cloth to the size that I need. In this case, I need a strip about 2 feet long by about 2 or 3 inches wide. Once I've cut the plaster cloth, I need to make sure I know which side is the rough side, which side is the smooth side. The rough side is the side that has excess plaster on it, and that excess plaster I'm going to be able to use to smooth the plaster out and to fill in some of the holes in the plaster cloth. To put the plaster cloth in place, it's really quite simple. You just spread it over the area that you want to cover, then you smooth it down with your fingers. Now I've put on rubber gloves, or nitrile gloves in this case, in order to avoid getting the plaster really embedded in my hands. As you can see here, this is covering a gap in my layout between the grade tracks, fast track on the grade, and the existing formation here, the existing landscape formation. As you smooth this out, it will spread the plaster along, and it will fill in some of the gaps on the cheesecloth. That really is what plaster cloth is. It is basically plaster impregnated cheesecloth. And there we have the plaster cloth on that first section. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll be able to put down lightweight hydrocal to really give it a finished off look. When mixing the hydrocal, the instructions say to start with cold water. I've found that the colder the water, the better it works. So I actually start with ice water. I put a few ice cubes in the water to make sure it's good and cold. Hydrocal mixes more easily with the ice water than with just cold tap water. It takes a couple of minutes to let it stand after you mix it together, and after you've let it stand for a couple of minutes, you can start stirring. Now when it gets mixed, it's going to be of a fairly thin consistency, almost watery, and that will change as soon as you start to put it on the surface. It will start to thicken as soon as it touches the plaster cloth. So be aware of that and give yourself a little time to get it down and let it thicken up. As you've put it in place, you can spread it out like I'm spreading it with this spatula. It's going to take a few batches to actually cover this. And you only have about 5 minutes of working time after you've mixed it up before the plaster starts to set up to the point where it's no longer usable. Once you're through pouring your hydrocal, the more quickly you clean up your utensils, the better, because once the stuff dries, it's really hard to get off. So as soon as you're done, take plenty of water, rinse out your materials, and be sure you don't put it down a sink drain because it'll harden up and clog that drain. So find a good place, outdoors preferably. I dig a little hole and I pour it in that, and that works well. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. Please click the thumbs up, like the video, share it with anybody you know that's interested in this topic, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.